The day my mother laughed at me was the day I stopped trying to earn my family's approval. It happened during Sunday dinner. The smell of roasted chicken filled the dining room while everyone admired the glossy photos of my older sister Emily's brand new mansion. My father passed the pictures around proudly, smiling wider than I'd seen in years. 5 bedrooms, he announced. A swimming pool, home theater. She and Daniel are really making it. Mom nodded with pride. I always knew Emily would build a life worth talking about. I smiled politely and took another bite of mashed potatoes. I worked as an elementary school teacher. My salary wasn't impressive, but I loved helping children learn. My small apartment was clean, peaceful, and paid for with my own money. That wasn't enough for my family. Dad suddenly looked at me. So, Claire, still renting? Yes. Mom laughed before I could say another word. You'll never own a home like your sister's. Emily leaned back in her chair, sipping her wine. I mean, teaching is cute, but it doesn't exactly buy luxury. Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I quietly placed my fork down. I never said I wanted a mansion. Mom shrugged. That's because people settle when they know they can't achieve more. The room became silent. I forced a smile. I should get going. Nobody stopped me. As I drove home, tears blurred the road ahead. For 30 years, I'd spent my life trying to make my parents proud. Straight A's, college scholarship, never asked them for money. Never caused trouble. Yet somehow, I was always the disappointing daughter. Emily was their favorite. She was louder, more glamorous. She married a successful real estate developer. To my parents, money measured success. Kindness didn't. 3 months later, life surprised me. One afternoon, the school principal called me into her office. I've nominated you for the National Innovative Teacher Award. I stared at her. Me, she smiled. Your literacy program increased reading scores across the district. Other schools want to copy it. I almost cried. It wasn't about the award. For the first time, someone saw my work. 6 weeks later, I won. The prize included a substantial cash award, national recognition, and speaking invitations around the country. Reporters interviewed me. Education organizations contacted me. Publishers wanted me to write a children's book. Within a year, my income had doubled. Then tripled. Not because I chased money. Because I loved what I did. I invested carefully, saved every extra dollar, bought small rental properties one at a time. Unlike Emily's husband, I never borrowed beyond my limits. I built slowly, quietly, patiently. 2 years later, I signed the papers for my dream home. It wasn't the biggest house in town, but every brick belonged to me. No loans, no hidden debt. I walked through the empty living room, touched the wall, and whispered. I did it. There was no one there to hear me. And honestly, that made the moment even sweeter. A month later, my parents called. We're having a family barbecue, Mom said. You should come. No congratulations, no questions, just another invitation. I almost declined. Instead, I went. Emily arrived wearing expensive designer clothes. She couldn't stop talking about luxury vacations. Then Dad asked, so, still renting? I smiled. No. Mom frowned. What do you mean? I bought a house. Emily laughed. A townhouse? No. A condo. I smiled again. A house. Dad shrugged. Nothing compared to Emily's place, I'm sure. I reached into my purse. Pulled out a few photographs. Placed them on the table. Silence. Mom picked one up. Dad grabbed another. Emily's smile slowly disappeared. The backyard overlooked a lake. Large windows filled the living room with sunlight. The kitchen was custom built. The garden wrapped around the entire property. Finally, Dad whispered, you own this. I do. Emily quickly asked, what's the mortgage? There isn't one. Everyone froze. No mortgage. I paid cash. For the first time in years. Nobody had anything clever to say. But life wasn't finished teaching lessons. A few weeks later, I received an unexpected phone call from Emily. She sounded different, nervous. Can we meet? We sat inside a quiet coffee shop. She looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. Daniel's construction company had collapsed. Bad investments, lawsuits, millions in debt. Their mansion was being repossessed. She stared at her coffee. I don't know what to do. For a moment, I remembered every cruel laugh. Every comparison. Every insult. Then I remembered something else. Pain changes people. I'll help you. She looked up, shocked. You will? Yes, but not with money. She frowned. I'll help you find work. I introduced her to several companies. Helped her rewrite her resume. Practiced interviews with her. 3 months later, she found a stable job. Not glamorous, honest, steady. For the first time in her life, she earned success without someone else's wealth. One rainy afternoon, Mom and Dad visited my house. They stood silently inside the front door. Dad looked around. I owe you an apology. Mom lowered her eyes. We judged you by things that never truly mattered. I didn't answer immediately. Some wounds heal slowly. Finally, I smiled. I spent years trying to prove I was enough. Mom wiped away tears. You always were. Those 5 words should have made everything better. But they couldn't erase decades of favoritism. Forgiveness came. Trust took longer. Months later, we celebrated Thanksgiving at my house. Not because it was the biggest. Because everyone wanted to be together. Emily helped cook. Dad played football with neighborhood kids. Mom laughed in the kitchen. Real laughter this time, not cruel laughter. As dinner ended, my young niece looked around the table. Aunt Claire, yes, Grandpa says this is the nicest home he's ever been in. I smiled. It isn't because of the house. She tilted her head. Then why? I looked around the table. Because for the first time, nobody was competing. Nobody was pretending. Nobody was measuring love by money. It's the nicest home, I said softly, because the people inside it finally learned what a home really is. That night, after everyone left, I stood on my back porch overlooking the quiet lake. The same stars shined above every mansion, every apartment, every tiny rented room. Success had never been about square footage. It was about building a life that no one could take away. And as the cool night breeze drifted across the water, I realized something that my family had taken years to understand. The greatest home you'll ever own is the one built with self-respect, patience, and peace.